Ladies and gentlemen, live on The Body Shop, 145,000 plus tuning in on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m., 10 p.m. You can check us out, www.ftns.co. Who do we have on the line? We have Dr. Squat. Who is Dr. Squat, you may ask? How dare you ask such a foolish question? In 1987, at the age of 45, this man established a world record in the squat. How much? 1,014 pounds. He only weighed 255 pounds. Being that was the most anyone has ever lifted in the history of competition, it earned him the nickname Dr. Squat. But he is known for so much more than that. This man has remained competitive in the masters level Olympic weightlifting until he recently, having represented the United States of America back in 1988 at the World Masters Game in Oregon. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is the president of ISSA certifications. This man has written articles, books. He started Sports Fitness Magazine, now known as Men Fitness Magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the first time ever to The Body Shop, Fred, Dr. Scott Hatfield.
I've never been introduced like that.
The proper introduction, finally.
Anytime you need one of those, man, you just let me know. You know what I mean? It's not a problem.
I'm going to need a recording of that
one. Every time he walks in the room.
There it is right there. I got him covered. So, Dr. Squat. Now, do you prefer to be called Dr. Squat, or do you want to be called Dr. Hatfield, because you have actually earned your doctorate in philosophy from Temple University? So the name Dr. Squat is not just a nickname, but it's a title that has rightfully been bestowed upon you.
Well, how about Fred?
I'll call you Fred. I'll call you Fred for the rest of this interview. All right, so Fred, first thing, man, when did you first fall in love with weightlifting?
Wow. You know, I was brought up on a farm. I was a pretty strong kid. Somewhere around age 11 or 12, I saw some big guys lifting weights in the garage on my way home from school. Mm-hmm. And I said, I could do that. I'm stronger than that, you know. So I said, hey, can I try that? And I lifted it over my head a few times. And all of these guys were way older than me. They were teenagers. And they just looked at me, shook their head. They couldn't believe what I had just done, because not a one of them could do it. I still remember that like it was yesterday. But yeah, that's how it happened.
Wow. All right. So now, from that brought you into, I guess we'll call it the world of bodybuilding.
Yeah, bodybuilding and Olympic weightlifting.
Mm-hmm. What were your first contests that you entered? Were they bodybuilding shows first?
Well, my first competition was in Stonington, Connecticut.
Wow.
And I was 17 years old, and I had never even lifted in any kind of competition. I didn't know what I was doing. Right. In fact, when I got to the competition, I watched all of the lighter classes lift, and I decided, well, I'll try to mimic the same kind of technique these guys are using. I ended up breaking a couple of state records in Olympic weightlifting that night, and that evening went on to win Teenage Mr. Connecticut in the bodybuilding competition. So
the same night.
Yeah, the same night. Downhill from there.
All right, now for our listeners, okay, who's just now tuning in, we have Fred, aka Dr. Squat. We're hearing you talking about, you grew up on a farm, so you got that farm boy strength, that's from all that baling hay. If people don't know what baling hay is, listen, the hay bales weigh about, 45 pounds each, and you got to keep tossing them things on a conveyor belt. It's not easy. But
oh, no, these bales weighed 100 pounds.
Oh, 100 pounds?
And I had to throw them up on the top of a truck that was 10 feet high.
So now, you're hearing this guy, right? So a lot of people will picture the farm boy, the typical big neck, big solid barrel build. But the thing was, you was at one point in your career, you was a gymnast, a college gymnast, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was. Yeah. Gymnastics has always been my first love.
Right. Okay.
And I went to Southern Connecticut State University, and By the time I got to my senior year, we had gone to the national championships a couple of times, and I was captain of the team, and I won a few medals in gymnastics along the way.
Okay.
What was your favorite part of that? Was it the rings? I see this picture of you on the rings.
Actually, yeah. My favorite competition was on the rings.
Yeah.
But I was also pretty good in high bar and a couple other events,
It's pretty amazing some of the routines that you see the gymnasts do. When they go up on the, is that the horse that they do it on with the two stands on there, and they just keep
the side horse, yeah.
Amazing. The body strength that these guys have and the physiques that they get just from doing that.
Calisthenics. I'm a firm believer in that. Yeah. You got to be able to not only lift, but manipulate your own body weight.
Fred, Andre's asking me a few things about you, like why were you so impressed to get this guy in the show? Like, what is it about him? I said, he's had his hands in everything that was fitness, and that just really impresses me. Like, you go through, and so you did bodybuilding, you did gymnastics, you did powerlifting,
track and field. Basketball, I was on the varsity basketball team.
Really?
High school, yeah.
How tall are you?
I'm 5.5 feet tall. I'll tell you the funny thing is, Coach used to love to put me in there at center because at 5.5 feet tall, I could get my hands up above the rim, and I was able to out-jump most of the guys in high school.
Wow. Wow. Oh, man. Okay, so, Fred, you have so many credentials that it's really hard to list them all and ask you questions to find out just who you are and really try to pick your brain, but I'm gonna try to do the best I can. Okay, so we found out that your first love is gymnastics. You've always been super strong, so let's go right into kind of a
biography.
Controversial question. No.
What do you want to ask?
Controversial question.
Good.
With what you've accomplished over your career in the sport of weightlifting, I'm not even going to call it powerlifting, but just weightlifting. What do you think of today's new crops of powerlifters and weightlifters and the physiques that they have now versus the physique that you and some of your other...
The physique-wise or the strength competitions?
Both. No, listen.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Like, when you see Fred, okay, and what he did in 1987, squatting 1,000+ pounds, you look at his physique, and it's somewhat attainable if you train hard. Big, round muscle bellies, decent-sized waist. Now you look at today's crop of powerlifters, and they all look like they're pregnant. They all look like they weigh 400 or 500 pounds. They can't breathe, and they call themselves powerlifters. I want to know, how Dr. Squat feels about that in comparisons to the physique from back of yesteryear.
I have to tell you, it's one of my pet peeves, and I'm almost sorry you asked me this question, but I'm going to give you a straight answer.
Please.
When I was a kid, a muscular guy could walk down the street, and people would look at him with a certain level of reverence, if you will. Bodybuilders were considered demigods.
Yes.
John Grimmick, Steve Reeves, those guys were demigods.
Right.
And Tommy Kono, and the list goes on and on about some of the greats of the 50s and even before that in the 40s. And that's the era that I grew up in. And I had a passion for what I did.
Right.
I became literally a priest to what I was doing, and what I was doing was getting the most out of my body that I could in every sport that I loved. And I loved them all.
Right.
It turned out that I was particularly good in powerlifting, so I kind of resigned myself to that sport by the time I got out of college.
Okay.
I tried out for the Olympic team one more time in weightlifting, but I didn't have an arm lock that you just got to have in order to hold the weights overhead.
Right.
I could get the weight overhead, but I just couldn't hold it because my elbows are bent.